went out at once. I use this expression because the suddenness of their departure put me in mind of nothing so much as the extinguishment of a candle by a puff of breath. The upper lip at the same time wrenched itself away from the teeth, which it had previously covered completely, while the lower jaw fought with an audible jerk, leaving the mouth widely extended, and disclosing in a full view of the swollen and blackened tongue. I presume that no member of the party then present had been unaccustomed to the deathbed horrors, but so hideous beyond conception was the appearance of Monsieur Valdemar at this moment, that there was a general shrinking back from the region of the bed. I now feel that I have reached a point of this narrative at which every reader will be startled into positive disbelief. It is my business, however, simply to proceed. There was no longer the faintest sign of vitality in Monsieur Valdemar, and concluding him to be dead, we were consigning him to the charge of the nurses, when a strong vibratory motion was observable in the time. This continued for perhaps 1 minute. At the expiration of this period, there issued from the distended and motionless jaws a voice, such as it would be madness in me to attempt describing. There are indeed 2 or 3 epithets which might be considered as applicable to it in part. I might say, for example, that the sound was harsh, or broken, or hollow, but the hideous whole was indescribable, for the simple reason that no similar sounds have ever jarred upon the ear of humanity. There were 2 particulars, nevertheless, which I thought then, and still think, might be fairly be stated as characteristic of the intonation, as well as adapted to convey some idea of its unearthly particularity. In the first place, the voice seemed to reach our ears, at least mine, from a vast distance, or from some deep cavern within the earth. In the second place, it impressed me, I fear indeed, that it would be impossible to make myself comprehended, as gelatinous or glutinous matters impress the sense of touch. I have spoken both of sound and of voice. I mean to say that the sound was one of distinct, or even wonderfully, thrillingly distinct syllabification. Monsieur Valdemar spoke obviously in reply to the question I had propounded to him a few minutes before. I had asked him, it will be remembered, if he still slept. Now he said, "Yes, no, I have been sleeping, and now I am dead." No person present even affected to deny, or attempted to repress, the unutterable shuddering horror which these few words, thus uttered, were so well calculated to convey. Mr. L., the student, swarmed. My own impressions I would not pretend to render intelligible to the reader. For nearly an hour we busied ourselves silently without the utterance of a word, in endeavours to revive Mr. L. When he came to himself, we addressed ourselves again to an investigation of Monsieur Valdemar's condition. It remained in all aspects as I have last described it, with the exceptions that the mirror no longer afforded evidence of respiration. An attempt to draw blood from the arms failed. I should mention, too, that this limb was no further subject to my will. I endeavoured in vain to make it follow the direction of my hand. The only real indication, indeed, of the mesmeric influence was now found in the vibratory movement of the tongue. Whenever I addressed Monsieur Valdemar a question, he seemed to be making an effort to reply, but had no longer sufficient volition. To inquiries put to him by any other person than myself, he seemed utterly insensible. Although I endeavoured to place each member of the company in mesmeric rapport with him, I believe that I have related all that is necessary to an understanding of the sleep-waker's state at this epoch. Other nurses were procured, and at 10 o'clock I left the house in company with 2 physicians and Mr. L. In the afternoon we all called again to see the patient. His condition remained precisely the same. We had now some discussion as to the propriety and feasibility of awakening him, but we had little difficulty in agreeing that no great purpose would be served by doing so. It was evident that so far death, or what is usually termed death, had been arrested by the mesmeric process. It seemed clear to us all that to awaken Monsieur Valdemar would have been nearly to ensure his instant, or at least his speedy dissolution. From this period until the close of last week, an interval of nearly 7 months, we continued to make daily calls at Monsieur Valdemar's house, accompanied now and then by medical or other friends. All this time the sleep-wakers remained exactly as I have last described him. The nurse's attention were continual. It was on Friday last that we finally resolved to make the experiment of awakening, or attempting to awaken him, and it is the perhaps unfortunate result of this latter experiment which has given rise to so much discussion in private circles, to so much of what I cannot help thinking unwarranted popular feeling. For the purpose of relieving Monsieur Valdemar from the mesmeric trace, I made use of the customary passes. These for a time were unsuccessful. The first indication of reviving was afforded by a partial descent of the iris. It was observed as especially remarkable that this lowering of the pupil was accompanied by the profuse of a yellowish ichor from beneath the lids, of a pungent and highly offensive odour. It was now suggested that I should attempt to influence the patient's arm as heretofore. I made the attempt and failed. Dr. F then intimated a desire to help me put a question. I did so, as follows: Monsieur Valdemar, can you explain to us what are your feelings or wishes now? There was an instant return of the headache circles on the cheeks. The tongue quivered, or rather rolled violently in the mouth, although the jaws and the lips remained rigid as before, and at length the same hideous voice which I have already described broke forth. "For God's sake, quick, quick, put me to sleep! Oh, quick, waken me! Quick, I say to you that I am dead!" I was thoroughly unnerved, and for an instant remained undecided what to do. At first I made an endeavour to recompose the patient, but failing in this through total abeyance of the will, I retraced my step, and as earnestly struggled to awaken him. In this attempt I soon saw that I should be successful, or at least I soon fancied that my success would be complete, and I am sure that all in the room were prepared to see the patient awaken.